This could be ugly for the Panthers. With the final 53-man roster almost near its fruition, certain position groups need several upgrades before the regular season is ready to begin. What's going on, guys? It is Tanner Blue, Carolina Panthers Digest. Hope you were doing well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are close to the final preseason game of the year against the Houston Texans. And then, guys, it is time to rock and roll, getting close to the start of the regular season. But we've got one more preseason game left, and we're going to talk about what the Panthers need to do before the regular season gets there. But before we do that, guys, you know the drill. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Guys, we're closing in on 700 subscribers, looking to get to 1,000 before the regular season begins. Thank you to everyone so much who has subscribed to so far and liked and shared any videos. I really do appreciate it, guys. You guys have been tremendous, and I enjoy doing these videos and talking Panthers football with you. So when I say things could get ugly, what I mean is that our good friend Mike K over there at ESPN has put together an article really talking about three areas that the Panthers need to look at for the waiver wire. Whenever moving forward whenever the 53-man rosters become available. There are three position groups that could be in trouble, could be ugly if the Panthers do not address them whenever we get to this position when we're getting down to our 53-man roster. There's going to be a lot of cuts. You're going to see guys, unfortunately, that we think should make the team that will be cut, but from other rosters, you'll see the same thing. You'll see some veterans. You'll see free agents that are still out there, veteran guys who are looking for a team that the Panthers could use to fill in those spots. And we're going to talk about those three positions today. And if they don't fill these in with better players, things could get ugly whenever it comes to depth, whenever it comes to injuries, whenever it comes to a guy needing to take the field. It could be ugly for these positions. Well, guys, let's go ahead and begin. We've got our article here from Mike K. The three positions, the biggest areas of need for the Panthers. Let's jump right in. As Sunday's NFL cut deadline looms, the Carolina Panthers will get one last look at the bottom of the roster against the Texans. As NFL teams trim down to 53 players, Carolina should be scouting film to find potential gems on the waiver wire next week, as well as everyone else who has fantasy football teams. Nearly every team in the league will cut NFL roster-worthy talent. These players the players who haven't earned vested veteran status will be subject to waivers. From there, teams can make their claims on other squads for departing talent. So the Panthers going to have a chance there. There's going to be other teams that are going to be cutting some, like you said, NFL-worthy talent. And there's three positions of need that the Panthers really need to look in, or else they could be in trouble. Let's go ahead and see what those positions are going to be and what the Panthers need to look out for. The Panthers have staged competition opposite Lloyd during the summer. So we're talking about linebacker, inside linebacker. We've got Devin Lloyd, like we mentioned here, but there's not really anyone else other than him that has shown the ability to really step up. We talk about here in the article, it talks about neither Wallace or Chairless have separated themselves in the battle. Coach Dave Canales acknowledged as much Monday, stating that the pair is head-to-head, and it's like neck and neck heading into the final week of the preseason. It talks about some stats there for both the guys. Behind the competing pair, those two guys, Martin Scott and Kawach, I might have said that wrong, I do apologize, have flashed potential as long-term developmental players, but neither really showing a thing. So it could be either or. While the waiver wire is in for more depth opportunities, the Panthers could look to upgrade over their current crop of competitors. Inside linebacker is not considered a premium position by most teams, and the Panthers might need to pounce if a scheme fit becomes available. So yeah, other than Devin Lloyd, who we signed in free agency, the Panthers could be in trouble. When we're looking at these other guys, they're going to need another inside linebacker. I've talked a little bit about this week about maybe a guy like Shaq Thompson coming back to the team. I'm sure there's some other free agent acquisitions. I apologize, I cannot talk tonight. There are some other people available that we can really make a run for, but we'll see what happens. But this is a huge position of need. Trevin Wallace or Claudin Chairless have not run away with the position. So that tells me, much like the Darren Waller signing, that the Panthers have not found, they don't feel comfortable with who they have at this position. They could look for upgrades. So this might be something that they do. Another position of need is going to be inside guard. We talk a little bit about here Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt make up one of the better league tandems, one of the better guard tandems in the league, but the current roster behind them leaves quite a bit to be desired. Both starters have notable injury histories, which is very true, and then we talk about some of the backups. Chandler Zavala has struggled. We talk about Brady Christensen. While it was nice to bring him back, he's coming off an Achilles surgery. Might take some time to really get him back into the zone. Jake Curran, a versatile lineman, has a history with the staff, but he could be upgraded as well. Linemen, particularly guards, tend to flood the waiver wire after the cut line. Perhaps the Panthers can find a better fit from elsewhere. And after the way the line was dominated by the Texas defense Wednesday in joint practice, the urgency to add new talent to the group feels palpable. I would agree with this 100%. You can never have too many good players on your offensive line. While we have struggled with the left and the right tackle position, they do have people in place that can anchor that down, at least for the season. Guys, we can't be shocked if Damian Lewis or Robert Hunt go out with an injury. There's a good chance that will happen. So we have to find someone to replace or step in for these veterans if they get hurt. And right now, the guys that are behind them are not getting the job done, at least here in the preseason. So something to be on the lookout for. Can the Panthers find some people on the wire to upgrade at the backup position? That would be huge if someone was to go down. You have to prepare for situations like that. And the last little bit here is going to be the defensive tackle position. We talked about, similar to the Panthers' outlook on their guard depth, Carolina could afford to enhance the group along the defensive line. Turk Warden out with a neck injury, not sure when he's coming back. Derrick Brown, obviously a beast, but he's only one person. And then, Bobby Brown has done some things, but hasn't really popped off the screen yet. You got Cam Jackson and Lee Hunter, a draft pick that we had here in the second round. They've shown some ability in the summer, but what will happen with them? And then we've got Harrison Hunt and Hall, a few other guys who were competing, trying to look for that. So they've gotten some pressures. They've done some things here in the preseason, but when you look at that position as a whole, there really is a lot of ability to upgrade the depth at the defensive line position because, again, it's just such a brutal position like guard in the NFL. Defensive tackles, those guys, they have to be fresh. They have to be rotated in. Got to have guys that can stop the run. And until a guy like Lee Hunter shows that he's ready to, be a starter on this team, to be able to come out and, play 3 downs or 2 downs and come in on certain positions and certain plays, do we have someone to be behind him if an injury happens? Or a guy like Derrick Brown, if he goes down, we could be in immense trouble. We've seen it before a few seasons ago. So really one of those positions of need for the Panthers, and they got to try to find someone on the wire to really shore things up if injuries do happen. Because the way I look at it, injuries, and I'm sure every team knows this, injuries will happen. They are going to happen. Your good players are going to go down. That is the nature of the NFL. But you have to find quality players behind them who can step up and do the job whenever they get hurt. So that's all for today, guys. The 3 positions of need that the Panthers need to look for in the waiver wire, or they could be in trouble. We're talking linebacker, we're talking guard, or we're talking defensive tackle. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining today. We will talk about the results of the Texans-Panthers game coming up soon, and we'll see what we can do with the 53-man roster. But until then, keep pounding. We will see you on the next one.